back to my channel and welcome to today's video. Today's video we are going to be talking about my reading goals. So I'm going to be reflecting on my 2025 reading goals as well as setting my goals for 2026. So I like to set goals, but I am terrible at sticking to them. So you'll see some of these I haven't stuck to and some of them are slightly continuing over into 2026 as a little spoiler for this video. But yeah, I do really like to set goals and I think it is really interesting to kind of look back on them. So let's dive into what my 2025 goals were. So I always set a number of books that I would like to read. Obviously I think everyone who uses Goodreads does this. They have a reading challenge and you can set the number of books that you'd like to read. This year I set it to 200 books and I did manage to achieve that. I have read more in previous years and 2024 I had quite a bit of a reading slump at the beginning of the year, so I wasn't reading as much. I still probably read more than, you know, some people do, but I read quite a lot less for me, and so I wasn't sure what I was going to be like in 2025, but I'm pleased to say I had a really good reading year. I've read quite a lot. And I've had a good time with my reading. I've been really into reading this year. Like I've been reading quite a lot and some people will be questioning how I can read so much. And there are three main reasons, I guess, for why I can read so much. Firstly, I have a nearly 2-hour commute time each day, Monday to Friday. So my bus journey to and from work is about 40 minutes each way, so it's like nearly 2 hours of reading and I can get quite a lot read in that time. I can, depending on the book, I can often read like 100 pages in that time. So if I'm reading like a 300-page book, it only takes me like a couple of days to read that. Obviously if I'm reading a slightly longer one, it takes a few more days and depending on the genre. But that is one reason why I can read so much. Secondly, I do listen to audiobooks quite a lot. I'll be listening to a audiobook during the week. So in the morning when I'm getting ready for work, I listen to an audiobook. In the evening when I'm like tidying up and making my tea, I listen to an audiobook. On the weekend when I'm doing stuff around the house, I listen to an audiobook. And I do listen to it on a slightly faster reading speed. I listen to it at either 2 times or 2.5 depending on the narrator and the type of story that it is, but I do listen to it on a quicker speed. I read quite quickly anyway, so to me listening on like 1 time speed is just too slow. I can read faster than that, so I do listen to it on a quicker speed so I can obviously get through an audiobook quite quickly. And thirdly, I don't really do anything else outside of reading. I don't really have like any other hobbies. I don't really go out much. So like on the weekend, I spend a lot of time inside reading. So that is how I can read so many. So just to answer that. Next reading goal was to read my Afterlight books and I failed spectacularly at this. I've read a few but not many and not as many as I would like to. Then read more non-fiction. I started off the year really well but I have not continued on with that throughout the year, and to be honest I'm not too bothered about that because I like some non-fictions, but it's not my favourite genre and I don't necessarily feel like forcing myself to read something just for the sake of it. So I'm not too bothered that I haven't kept to that. Then these ones kind of linked together, but it was to read more from my Kindle and read more from my audio library, and I've done okay at this. I definitely could do better, but I am a sucker for buying books, free Kindle books, and on the 99p Kindle deals and the monthly Audible deals. I'm a sucker for those, so yeah, I've done okay, but definitely could do better. Read more historical romance. Again, I have read a few historical romances this year, and some of the ones that I've read I have really enjoyed. But again, definitely could do better on this one. I do really love historical romance when I read it, but I do have to be careful that I don't like burn myself out on them because I think that's what's happened in the past. And then I wanted to read more from my physical TBR, which I've been terrible at in 2025. I have read, I've read a lot of library books this year, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but when you've got a lot of books obviously library books have to come first because they have a due date. So I want to try and get better in 2026 about balancing those, which you'll obviously see in my goals. So now on to my 2026 goals. So I'm going to stick with reading 200 books. I think it is achievable, and I don't want to make it any higher because I don't know what 2026 will hold for me. I'm hoping there will be some changes in 2026 in my personal life. So I don't know what my reading's going to look like, but I hope to do 200 books again. Sticking with the kind of read my Afterlight books, I've expanded that out to read my subscription books. I have a few subscriptions now, and I have a lot of books that I have not read from them, and so I really want to try and make an effort. So you'll probably see videos coming out of me reading these, or that is my goal at least, to try and read those. I would really love to get to a point where I read them as they come in. We're quite a way off from that point because I've got nearly a whole almost 2 years worth of Afterlight books to catch up with. But I really do want to get better at reading the books that I get coming in. Then I want to read at least one classic a month. So there are a few booktubers who are doing a Jane Austen read along for 2026, and I have read all of Jane Austen's books and I had a good time with the majority of them, but I would really love to reread them because I read them quite a long time ago, and I wonder if my opinions on them have changed now that I'm older. And there are some other classics I do want to read, and there are some that I want to reread. I really want to reread Jane Eyre, which is one of my favourites, and I want to reread Wuthering Heights. I know I reread it in 2025, but I want to reread it again before the film comes out or before I see the film. Frankenstein as well, there's a film of that, and I want to reread Frankenstein. So I think reading at least one a month is doable. I have read a few more classics this year than I have in previous years. I've read some Oscar Wilde, which I really enjoyed. I want to continue reading that collection that I've got. And I always reread A Christmas Carol and The Great Gatsby each year, so I'll probably be doing that. So I think doing one a month is hopefully manageable. Then I want to focus on books from my physical TBR and also my digital library. So I will still be using my library in 2026. I will still be getting books from the library, so don't panic about that. But I do want to try and get a better balance between reading books I physically own, both physically and also digitally, as well as reading my library books, and kind of try and balance that out, because I have a lot of books and I really want to kind of clear up my reading space. You don't see it in my videos, but I've got piles of books everywhere in this room, so I really want to kind of focus on getting some of those books off the floor onto my shelves, and really kind of narrowing down the books that I own. So once I've read a book, if I don't love it, getting rid of it. Again, I've got a pile of books that I've been wanting to get rid of for ages and just haven't done anything with them. So I really want to try and focus on that in 2026. Linked to that, I want to try and be more mindful of the books that I'm buying. So I'm not going on a book buying ban because that is not possible. I do not think I could go on a book buying ban, but I want to try and be a little bit more mindful of the books that I'm buying. Do I really need that book? Am I going to read it? Maybe trying to buy only ones that I have read and loved. I don't know what that exactly looks like, because I love buying things, not just books, but in other areas like clothing and homeware, and buying things makes me happy. So I can't cut it off completely, but I do want to try and be a little bit more mindful about things that I'm buying, not just in my books, but in general, and really trying to kind of cut down a little bit. But as I say, I won't be completely not buying, and I will still be keeping my subscriptions, at least for the foreseeable. But yeah, I don't, as I say, I don't go out a lot. I don't go and do a lot of activities or any other hobbies. So to me, spending money on books, that is my hobby, but I'm not doing anything else instead of. So but I want to try and get a little bit better. And then I want to continue and complete more series that I've started. So I have a ton of unfinished series, and I don't just mean series that are still like being ongoing being published. I mean ones that are actually fully completed. I am behind on so many series, and I have a spreadsheet tracker that I use, and there are so many that I've got unread, and I just want to try and continue on and make an effort to kind of continue on like after I've read one, because what will happen is I'll read a book, then it'll be like months later and I'll go to read the second one and I'm thinking, I don't really remember the first one too well. So I want to try and get better at like reading series back to back, particularly like I have a lot of contemporary romance series that I've started, and some I've started like in the middle of, and so I really want to get better at finishing those. And then my last one, which is going to be a tricky one, I want to reintroduce TBR videos, and I really want to try and stick to them. I see a lot of people doing TBR videos and people say that they have so much fun doing those, and I really want to try and incorporate them back into my reading, and see, I think as well it'll be really good to kind of use them as a way to direct my reading to reads from my physical TBR and digital TBR, and so I have a TBR jar that I am going to be introducing for 2026, and I'll show you that in my January TBR video, and I'll talk a bit more about it there. But what I really want to do with my TBR is I think I'm only going to do like 4, well, to start with I think I'm going to stick to 4, because I feel like that's maybe more manageable rather than going in with like 6 or even more. I think if I do 4 I could stick to that. And what I've done for the my TBR jar is there are some like certain books in there that like I would have to read if I pulled that out, but I've also done like reading prompts, and I think with the reading prompts they allow a bit more flexibility, because I am a mood reader, and as I say I do use the library, so things come in. But what I'm going to try and do for my TBR is I have to pick one that I have like on my physical TBR or digital TBR, and with it being a prompt, so some of them are like things like read a book with a pink cover, so there I have loads of books that could fit that, and so I'm gonna in my TBR videos kind of pull out a few different options, and then I've got something to choose from where I'm not having to say like I have to read that one particular book. And I feel like maybe if I do that I'll have a better chance of sticking to my TBR. And as I say, the overall goal is to reduce down my physical TBR, so that is something I'm going to be focusing on. So they are my goals for 2026. We'll see if I stick to any of them. I think out of all of them, the one that I will definitely achieve probably is 200 books. The other ones, who knows, but we'll see. I really hope I do stick to them. Let me know what some of your 2026 reading goals are, and I will see you in my next video.